All right, SNL live from the NFL Combine. Landry and Cody Stoots with you. We've been walking around since the early morning. Today was the defensive portion, the trenches, D-line and linebacker, which on the surface, Texans may look at and say, I don't know that we really necessarily need that, but I think that would be a mistake to approach things with that mindset. We'll get more into that. Shout out to Spanky's for sending us out here today. One large pie, one topping, 11.75. Can't beat that. Go take advantage of that. The greatness that is Spanky's at all locations.
I love the defensive linemen, the linebackers, because usually there's some good juice in that group because you got some big personalities. You obviously have large humans at the defensive tackles, a lot of the defensive ends, and then you kind of find the linebackers. It's like, okay, this guy's just kind of sounds like a meathead. He probably just goes out there and just destroys people physically. Then you got some of those more cerebral guys that talk about, oh, well, I saw this in the film and I saw that. And it's a great time to talk to all those guys and talk to the various pieces of the defense. And I like that they start with them and it kind of kicks into gear a little bit more as the week goes on until you get to Friday when it's there's going to be some people here for quarterbacks, but that's running backs and wide receivers. They end with the fat guys on the O-line and tight ends tomorrow. So it really feels like the Combine's actually started now. You start talking to these defensive tackles, defensive ends, and linebackers.
Yeah, and I get a kick out of it because there's sometimes like a desire to minimize like what's going on here, like who met with who and stuff. And for me, this is just a really good preparation and kind of a vision of where you can kind of see these guys. You hear them talk. Like we're in the locker room every day, and you see, you kind of check them out and you say, okay, could I envision this guy in the Texans locker room? I think the Texans locker room is kind of easier to envision a lot of these guys because it's kind of clear what they want, what they like. I'm not sitting here saying it's the right thing, but it's just kind of easy to imagine what the Texans, what kind of players they like,
especially on defense too. It may be a little bit harder to kind of gauge that with some of these offensive players as we talk to them in the next few days, but especially on defense, it definitely feels to me like you hear a guy talk about his teammates, or you hear a guy talk about how important it was to show this or show that, or every one of these guys, it felt like, said at some point that I'm the dirtiest, nastiest, grittiest player. It's like, okay, the Texans are going to love hearing that. And a lot of this stuff's established for the Texans. Like there's not going to be a lot of, hey, there's young guys out of the 2026 draft that you have to thrust in to the Texans lineup right away, but we know they'll trust a young guy if he earns it. And so it's pretty easy to see how some of these guys fit in. And then listening and watching some of it's pretty easy to see how some of them don't fit in too.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec. We're also going to get to the big Trent Williams news. Should the Texans consider that?
The rumor and innuendo around Trent Williams.
Well, it feels like deja vu because it feels like about 365-ish, give or take a few days ago. We were right here when the Deebo Samuel stuff started. So it's like another 49ers move that needs to be made, and they either need to make a deal or they need to get rid of him or whatever. And I've seen that Rick Cohen from the 49ers is saying they need to move on from him. So if they do, should the Texans be in the mix? We'll check that out and figure that out. So, yeah, I think for sure that they are going to go defense relatively soon in this draft. But I don't know how soon, and how soon is too soon. And are the guys that we like, that perhaps they like, are they even going to be available?
I would say that 28 is absolutely in play from a defensive perspective. 38 is absolutely in play. Those are the first two selections for the Houston Texans, and I don't feel like it's out of the question based on the way that this organization operated. What was it? 2 years ago? I don't think it's out of the question that, or 3 years ago, I don't think it's out of the question that if they took an offensive player at 28, they use those additional assets to move up from 38 and get one of D'Amico Ryans' guys that is a defensive player. So I'm pretty interested in 28 or 38 for a defensive guy. Now, both at defense would be a little much. That would be a little questionable. but I would say that certainly one of those two picks is absolutely on the table for a defensive investment.
Yeah, and I look at you know how I always talk about draft picks, checker moves, chess moves, because on the surface people will look at the Texans, the 2026 Texans, and they'll say you don't need any defensive linemen, you don't need any linebackers, but you have one defensive tackle under contract in the upcoming season that actually plays in Tommy Togiai. And
because we don't know what they're going to do with Mario Edwards. We don't know if he's on the team or they're going to cut him for cap.
And you have no one under contract the year after that, and it's the same thing at linebacker. At some point, you're going to have to get cheaper. And I actually think this is kind of a test for DeMeco Ryans, where is DeMeco Ryans going to be willing to not fall in love with guys and bring new guys in? I think the answer would be yes, but I also think that D-line and linebackers are the ultimate chess moves. I think they're the ultimate chess moves. I think they can make significant impacts. And quite frankly, I think if you can upgrade from Henry To'oTo'o, cool. I like Henry To'oTo'o as a player, but if you can upgrade and get someone who's maybe a little bit more sideline to sideline, or you can find someone who, brings as much as Azeez Al-Shire does, then I think you should be very, very willing to do that.
So I don't necessarily totally agree that defensive line falls into the chess move category, because they use so many defensive linemen. They rotate their defensive tackles. They rotate their defensive ends. You talked about the numbers game. It's not like they've got a lot of solutions at defensive end either. It's not like there's a whole bunch of talent behind Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. So I'm very intrigued to see them add to the defensive line situation, either with the young guys who could be a multi-year solution, certainly in free agency if they wanted to go that route. But the linebacker one, especially if Henry To'oTo'o has another season where he improves and he has an even better year than his previous year, it's going to be pretty tough to say, well, yeah, we're just good with Henry and Azeez for the next 3-4 years. I would think Henry's going to want a contract. Maybe another team would be interested. That's where it would be nice if you had 2026 with a rookie behind them to slide that guy in next to Azeez, because I believe Azeez is going to get a contract extension this offseason.
Well, and you immediately get people in the chat. Shout out to everyone in the chat. You immediately get people saying, well, what about the offensive line? I really – look, you always take it with a grain of salt. You take their words. You try to make sense. I really don't know that Nick Caserio is as concerned about the offensive line or the offense as a whole. And I actually believe him. This doesn't seem like the typical Caserio word salad. Like, between the sarcasm yesterday about Dalton Schultz, where he's like, yeah, I thought he set a franchise record. Must have missed that. And all the other stuff. And then the offensive line, it feels like Nick Caserio does not think that the offense is as much of an issue as most do. I think he thinks the quarterback needs to play better. But I don't think he believes that. Let's go back to this snarky comment from old Nick Caserio during his national availability yesterday at the Combine, when the notion was put out that perhaps they need some help on the offensive line. Here you go.
Nick, in saying that in your offensive line, you need to shore up your offensive line, I would say. Would you say if you had somebody that presented themselves at a different position, like the best in that position, drafting so late, would you say you guys were leaning more towards an offensive lineman or somebody who was the best available at that time?
Yeah, we're typically taking the best players. I would say as it pertains to the offensive line. I mean, honestly, it's probably one of the best years we had since I've been there. We played, I think we gave up the least amount of sacks. Or second in the history of the organization. We had the most improvement from sack production from one year to the next. I think it was us and the Bears. So, I mean, honestly, our offensive line actually played pretty good last year. So maybe I was looking at different film, but we're going to look at who we feel are the best players that we think are going to help us, and try to put together a good team.
Maybe I was looking at different film.
Yeah. And this kind of goes back to what's annoying me about Caserio a little bit. Like, dude, that's a low standard. Like, the best offensive line we've had since I've been here is probably an offensive line that still probably needs to be tweaked a little bit. And that's what's kind of amusing here is he knows that the offensive line isn't great. He knows the offense But it feels like he's really, really putting it out there that the surroundings are not an issue. Like the narrative that CJ Stroud needs a lot around him, all that, it just doesn't. He does not subscribe to that.
They definitely need to do more on the offensive line. It's not like all put together. Like they don't have the bodies right now. Like they don't have it there on the offensive line. I mean, he's made it very clear with his words what they think of Jared Patterson. He acted like they could, if they had a good shot at an upgrade on Jake Andrews, they would do it. I mean, I know he loves Ariante Ursary and Titus Howard, and that's 2 of the 5 spots. Okay, well, 2 of the 5 spots. So you got to go fill those other 3. He's very proud that they got better at pass blocking, and I understand it. Some of that is gimmicked because of the way the offense operates and C.J. Stroud getting rid of the football fast. And then some of that is just improvement of the offensive line, and some of it's playing a bunch of teams that didn't have really good defenses and really good pass rushers. So it's not as good as the pass blocking looks. I also think he believes it's not nearly as bad as the run blocking looked either. So that's where I kind of see the disconnect from where he kind of always seems to have something to defend them, but also is somewhat honest about their run game.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the direction in which they're going when it comes to the O-line. Now, we'll hear from some of the prospects that perhaps we fell in love with, guys that the Texans visited with. But first, let's touch on this Trent Williams thing. Trent Williams, the 49ers, they're having a kind of a showdown when it comes to the contract. There's talk that he could be released if they don't agree on a deal. Where do you sit on this Trent Williams thing?
Trent Williams is one of the best tackles to ever do it. Trent Williams is fantastic. And if the Houston Texans have a chance to get Trent Williams for a year or 2, and that gets Ariante Ursary to play right tackle, which they attempted to have him do last year. If that's the case, then you should definitely explore it. You should definitely look into it. You should definitely do it.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that there's talk about, he's 38 years old. He's old. If you get him on a short-term deal, and I heard Seth Payne talk about this, if you get him on kind of like a Daniil Hunter type of deal, especially with the versatility you have at Titus Howard, a lot of people envision Ariante Ursary as a long-term right tackle. There's a lot of scouts that think he's more of like a long-term right tackle. If he goes to right and then you bring him back to left eventually, or if Trent Williams misses some games and you can shuffle around, you've kind of shown that you have the potential to be able to move around a little bit when it comes to the O-line. So
a year ago the conversation was, can Ursary play left tackle? He played left tackle fairly well this year, but Trent Williams is better at left tackle right now than Ursary is, right?
Yes, it's not even close. He's way better than Ursary is. It's not even close. So I think you should be open to that. If it's a short-term deal, the other part of it is obviously it takes 2 to tango. He's a Houston guy. He lives in Houston, so that's something that they should definitely consider.
Absolutely, you have to consider it. And if the opportunity is there and it's just a signing of him, it's just something where they go and get him, then they've got to go about doing that, and they've got to go and add him to the equation and play Ursary at right tackle, and having him at left tackle would certainly change some things, and you can really brag about it from from an offensive line standpoint at that point.
So the answer to that is yes, yes, and yes. And we know that D'Amico knows what Trent Williams is about as well, because he's got a hell of a history with him from their days in San Fran. So yes, I would be open to that. Let's hear from some of the prospects. We'll start with the linebackers. CJ Miller out of Georgia is a guy who I'm pretty dang fascinated in him. He's a freak athlete. I think he had 1,600 rushing yards his senior year in high school. He's a linebacker. He played with Kamari Lassiter. Some say he could be a second-round pick. Many people believe he ends up in the first round. But I'm always fascinated by these guys and just kind of how they how they speak when they're asked about Kamari Lassiter, and CJ Miller is no different when it comes to when it comes to CJ Allen, excuse me, not Miller.
There's Christian Miller, the defensive tackle at Oregon, and then CJ Miller, the linebacker at Oregon. Yeah, so we don't want
CJ Allen.
CJ Allen, CJ.
Yeah, CJ Allen.
Okay, Christian Miller, CJ Allen. Christian Miller, defensive tackle, CJ Allen, linebacker.
Well, I asked CJ Allen about his relationship with Kamari Lassiter. And he basically said that Kamari Lassiter's a dog. He said that Kamari Lassiter used to get the whole team hype. He completely lit up when talking about him.
All these Georgia guys have just a tremendous amount of respect for Kamari, and you hear we heard Kirby Smart talk about him a couple of years ago, and obviously the way the Texans talk about him right now, it seems like he was just not just a tone setter, but like a program standard that they almost hold all these guys to and expect them to be.
The next step is basically just knowing your guys, having that connection with your guys and building that and knowing what get your guys going, how to push them. Because I believe, man, you got to lead each guy differently. You got to see what makes him get going.
That was CJ Allen on his leadership style.
Yeah, and I asked him, you can check it out on X. I asked him about Kamari Lassiter. He had some interesting things to say. I also talked to another Georgia guy in Christian Allen, and Christian Allen is I really had to go back, quite frankly, and I had to look like how bad his past was, because
Christian Miller.
Yes, Christian Miller.
Okay,
I keep mixing up the
Allen and the Miller, the two Bulldogs.
Yeah, but yeah, Christian Miller. He got asked probably like six questions about his what he was doing at Georgia, and I looked it up, and I guess he went 30 over the speed limit, 95 and a 65. It wasn't as extreme. Now, given Georgia's history, it's probably not a good move to be going 30 over the speed limit, which he admitted as much. But I do wonder if this is their kind of guy. He did leave open the possibility. This was kind of just watch him when he's talking about Kamari Lassiter and how much he lights up, and then listen to what he says at the end.
What was Kamari Lassiter like as a teammate? Because you're talking about a lot of guys in the trenches. Some say he's kind of built like that.
I'm not gonna lie, Kamari Lassiter, he got a D tackle heart. Like, man, he a man amongst men. It's just like, I was just on the phone with Kamari yesterday. One thing about him, he never changed. He always the same. Everywhere you go, he got a mindset that won't be stopped. Just being in Athens with Kamari, he always held me accountable, and that's my brother. I love him. Got a lot of love for him, and I might be on his team. You never know.
Might be on his team. You never know. I don't know how they feel about Miller. I did that. Like, the state of college football was on display with him, because I thought this was hilarious. And this is just how much the game has changed. Because he was asked, how close were you to coming out last year? And he said, I thought about it, but I didn't want to leave a lot of money on the table. There used to be a day where that was the opposite. But to hear a guy say, and the craziest thing about this, I think we're starting to see the effects now, where you look at the ages of the prospects, and they're all 20, 22, 20. They're like, not all. Like,
the vast majority.
Allen is actually, I think, 20. CJ Allen, the linebacker. But Miller, they're all, for the most part, 22, whatever. Now, you do have a 25 in there too. But
sure,
the state of college football is a little bit different. But I don't see why they wouldn't like his game, though. Like, this does feel like someone that D'Amico Ryans would like to work with.
Big run stuffer, and can, every one of these guys is going to say they have pass rush upside. Every one of these guys is going to say that they can go out there and rush the passer. Not everybody's going to actually be able to develop that part of their game. Miller kind of leans more towards, you're hopeful that it shows up, but I don't love it at 28 as much as maybe at 38, but he's not going to hang around very long. Some team's going to snatch him up, because, as you've seen, you want more and more defensive linemen that can stay on the field, play all the downs. You don't have to and teams are trying to run the football more, and they're trying to run the football more up the middle. And a guy like Miller is an invaluable asset in trying to stop teams as that sort of makes its way back into the regular style of offense that a lot of teams are playing. And Miller's a very intriguing player from that standpoint.
So what is the path to the players that we just mentioned? And C.J. Allen, Christian Miller, what is the pathway to where you could see either one of those guys, or you would support either one of those guys?
I can't see either of them at 28. So I can't see either of them as the first-round selection for the Houston Texans. I would see them both in play at 38, and then anything past that, it's a no-brainer. You wouldn't be anywhere close to upset if they were picked with the next selection that the Texans had. I can't see it at 28. I understand it at 38, certainly. But if you were going with a defensive player, maybe some of these other guys would fit better at 28, and you'd be more intrigued with them at 28. Miller and Allen, the two Georgia guys we just talked about, I lean more towards top of the second round than into the first round for them.
Yeah, I like both of these. I like both of these guys. I kind of side with you on 38 instead of 28. And I actually would be pleased with either one of these guys at 38 instead of 28. I do find it fascinating, though, that when you look at and you talk about the Texans, like on one side of the ball, it's offense, and it's more about what you would do when you talk about it. It's like, what I would do this. You should draft this guy, whatever. In 3 years, though, like when we talk about the defense and we talk about D'Amico's defense and what they do and how they get the most out of defensive linemen, whether it's the guys that you pay premiums for, or the guys like Tommy Togiai that you bring in off the street, or the guys that you bring in off the street in the middle of the season, Henry To'oTo'o, day 3 guy. We can go through the secondary 2 different layers of that, whether it's a first-round guy like Stingley, a second-round guy like Lassiter, and our guy that you trade up for in Bullock. They seem to maximize that. When you talk about the defense, it's like, well, whatever they like. Like when you talk about the offense, it's like, well, this is who they should get. But when you talk about the defense, it's well,
they've built a level of trust with the way that they approach things defensively, and they've built a level of trust that the guys they do go and invest in are going to be really fun players. I mean, not only draft picks, obviously. I think Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock are fantastic examples of it. Bullock was not thought of as near the top safety. Kamari Lassiter was thought of as slow, and at best, a lot of people believed he was the 6th or 7th best cornerback in that draft. Well, he's one of the best corners out of that draft. And only Quinyon Mitchell has a conversation for being anywhere as
and
good.
There's some good ones too. Like it's not. This is not a situation where there were like busts taken in front of him.
Right. Like Quinyon Mitchell is an excellent player. He's right there. You know, they play a little bit differently. I think Quinyon could probably do Kamari's job. Kamari could probably do Quinyon's job. They're the 2 best. But Nate Wiggins is a good football player.
DeJean.
Cooper DeJean is a really good football player. Kool-Aid McKinstry's had some ups and downs in New Orleans with the Saints, but there's some really good corners, and Kamari's stood out amongst them, and same with Bullock. And there was some nice safety play, and there was some worry about, hey, is the frame going to work? Are those ball skills just success from college, or is that something you can carry over? Well, he's done a really nice job too. And then you can even go back to that initial D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio draft, and you got Henry To'oTo'o sitting all the way back there at the end of that draft, towards the back end, and kept him around. He's worked his way up. He's gotten better and better and better. And they identified the guy as, hey, if we get him in the building and he improves like we think he can improve, he's going to end up being a good player for us. And there you go. Henry To'oTo'o is your starting linebacker right next to Azeez Al-Shaair. So they've built the trust that they know what they're doing on defense. And then over on offense, it's like watching, 2 clowns shoot out water out of flour at each other.
Yeah, on offense, it's
I got the Dolphins guy cracking up on that one. That's good.
But he also has watched the Texans, so he can probably he's also had to watch the Texans offense and the defense, so he probably the analogy actually makes sense. Yeah. So the 2 Georgia guys that we've talked about right now, one during the D line and one during the linebacker, we're both open to 38 is when it probably makes sense.
Yes, and they're certainly not my favorite guys for 38, but I'm certainly down for either of those guys at 38, depending on who's available and who's there.
Now we got two guys that I think 28 it's going to have to be, and these are two guys on the interior as well. Starting with Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech. I did not know what Lee Hunter sounded like. He said he loves to talk trash. He said that talking trash is something that I do. He said he thinks it brings out the best in guys. Now, when I hear talking trash, I think, okay, there's different levels of that in the Texans locker room. Like CJ Gardner-Johnson was annoying as hell. Like we were in that locker room. It was kind of like cringe whenever CJ Gardner-Johnson was there. He had that middle section, and it was just like, oh God. As was Daryl Taylor, if we're being honest. It must be something in the water in that section. But there's also the Jalen Petries. There's also the Kamari Lassiters. There's also kind of the element of the trash talk. So I don't think the Texans would completely dismiss trash talk. But the question is, did the Texans talk to Lee?
The Texans?
Yeah, I mean,
How'd that meeting go? What do you think of their defense?
it was a very nice meeting with him. It went smooth.
What do you think about the way they play defense?
They play great defense there.
All right. So there he is. Lee Hunter. Where are we at on Lee Hunter?
People walked away from Lee Hunter's performance at the podium today and were just, I mean, he had people laughing. He was talking about all sorts of things. He was talking about how he's got a daughter and being a girl dad and how great it is. And he can't say no to anything that she wants. And then someone asked him, like, hey, how do you get better each week when you're already playing really good? And he's like, Sunday through Friday, that effing film's going to get you better. You got to watch it all. You know, saying people started laughing. And I don't know that everybody knew he had such a big and gregarious personality. And I have to imagine that comes across in these interviews with teams. And it's like, oh, okay, this is a big, football centric guy, wants to take care of his family. And, you think about where he's had a lot of success at the college level and what he can do. And I believe there to be some pass rush upside. That's why I'd be comfortable with him at 28. And obviously he's a wall there for slowing down things on the ground.
Yeah, he has some pass rushing potential for sure. And he's got a big personality. Now, another guy though, that I think is interesting, and I don't know that pass rushing is his strength. As a matter of fact, when he was asked to break down his game, he said, I'm a 2-down guy, and he said I can take up space on third down. Now I don't know how the Texans feel about that, but it does feel like it does.
What do you think about that? Because most guys are going to say, "Oh, I don't come off the field." Do you like the honest assessment from Ohio State defensive tackle Caden McDonald?
I do, and I don't know if it like with this defense, with what they do, I don't know that taking up space is the worst thing.
They don't have like a space taker up or a defensive tackle. Togiai does a nice job, but he's not like that traditional space eater.
It feels like Caden McDonald, between Sala talking about arms and between, maybe not being necessarily a massive pass rusher, I would say, well, maybe he's not the ideal guy for them, but I actually think he might fit into what they do and what they want to do. And there's another element that I want to add to it, but I don't even know that he gets to 28. This is a pretty impressive dude. He did say that he met with them, but McDonald seems to be a very popular pick among the peeps.
I'd be totally fine with Caden McDonald at 28. And I feel like there's been times where he spent time on the college football field, and think about where he plays, Ohio State, and where he's absolutely, unquestioned, one of the best players on the team and one of the best players on the field. And some of the big games that Ohio State's played in. So, yeah, he's not a total nothing burger from a pass rush standpoint, but he's going to eat space.
Now, in fairness, he did say he was the best DT in the draft.
Sure.
Yeah, so he did say that. It's not, I think it was an honest assessment. Like, and I think sometimes taking up, I think the willingness to take up space might be something that D'Amico Ryans admires. I know, he doesn't like the freelance stuff. So, like, I don't think that that's necessarily the worst thing. There was another element that I thought about too.
Well, just one more point about that. Caserio literally yesterday talked about, like,
stopping the run.
Well, how willing are you to do what is best for the team, even if it's not best for you and how you operate? And it's like, oh, okay, Cade McDonald wants to go in there and just eat up offensive linemen and make it easy for everybody else to make a play. It feels like something the Texans be interested in.
Yeah, and then you got Togia, and you figure it out, and sometimes guys will surprise you. The other element of him that I kind of thought about was that Matt Patricia was the DC at Ohio State last year, and God, like all these Ohio State guys just completely swear by him. Apparently, he's been like Zooming with them and preparing them for the process and stuff. So like Patricia's kind of like turned over a new leaf since he almost ran over me with his four-wheeler. But
the rehab of Matt Patricia has been fascinating to watch.
Well,
because he used to be a sloppy, fat Patriots imposter. And now, I mean, he coordinated one of the best defenses in college football. Now, obviously, it's loaded with talent, so it's a little bit easier, but you still got to go out there and make it happen.
Well, the thing that I think is interesting is that when Caserio was in New England, like Matt Patricia was like the golden child for like a long time. And they have like a really solid relationship. Now, he didn't think enough of him to make him like an offensive coordinator. Like if this were Belichick, you're probably taking McDonald first overall because he obviously liked him a little bit more. But if there is like any information or anything like that, and it's obviously not the same scheme. It's different, but there's not going to be a shortage of information from Matt Patricia to Nick Caserio when it comes to McDonald. And I don't know where he goes. He is the short arm guy this year though. Like last year's Will Campbell is this year's Cade McDonald.
Yeah, as far as the defensive tackles go, certainly the short arm guy, and there's some other short arm defensive ends in the conversations I think have been pretty prevalent and popular with them. And I always wonder too, like, you know, if you go in the meeting and a team asks you about the short arms, like, what do you say? Well, instead of thanking God after the game, I cursed him because he gave me short arms. Like, what do you do? It's like, well, you can worry about how long my arms are. You can worry about how I use them and dominated.
But they care.
Yeah, certainly.
Certainly
teams care,
especially in like the Sala, D'Amico. Like they care a lot.
Sure.
How much is the question? And I'm sure there are exceptions they're willing to make, but they do care.
Yeah, to me, he feels like the player that I don't give a damn how long his arms are, and you can go in there and he can help you with an element of his game right away. And if he improves on it and turns into the player you hope he can be, then he's a solid force for years to come for your defense.
Now, a guy that he was a little bit late to the podium. I guess they're dragging you around all over the place, but Akeem Essidor was a guy who
the defensive end from Miami.
Yeah, his concern is he's going to be 25 when the draft happens. So he said that he looks at it as like being a seasoned vet or whatever, like a seasoned rookie. So he's kind of trying to turn that into a positive. But the interesting thing I think about him is that I would say the stock is pointing up on two assistants with the Texans that will be defensive coordinators sooner rather than later. And that's Rod Wright and Dino Vasso.
The defensive line coach and the DB's coach.
Yeah, the defensive line coach and the DB coach. And Rod Wright actually was the DN coach at Miami when Messidor was a freshman. And he
was 22 back then.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know if that means anything. But I will say this. I don't completely dismiss someone because of age, because we've actually seen the opposite of that. Remember when Amobi Okoye, friend of the show, by the way, but remember when he was like 16 or whatever? Now, I'm exaggerating, but however the hell
18 or 19.
Yeah, he was always the guy you wanted in your Madden franchise because you'd be able to write it out. I don't know that age is the end all be all. I do think it's kind of gotta mean something when you're drafting in the first round. Like this goes back to when you would want to see a guy. Would you take a 25-year-old in the first round? And the answer for me is no.
Oh, I would. So
you're not worried about it at all.
But Akeem Messidor is what you talk about a lot of times. He is actually one of the chess move type of players because the role for him is immediately the defensive end 3, and he plays right away in the rotation for the Texans. And then he has the type of talent that in year 2, he is the guy they trust opposite Will Anderson
once Daniil's gone
on the defensive line after Daniil Hunter. Like, I can't definitively say that I feel there's a whole bunch of defensive ends that in year 2 will have earned the trust to the level where the Texans will say, yep, Daniil, for sure, you're out of here, see you later, and we're going to give the rookie we drafted. And I do wonder, and it's a totally different player at a different part of the draft, but Caserio was very complimentary. Like, he didn't make it seem like it was a negative for Solomon Byrd a few years ago. It's like, oh, he's 24, he has a family.
But there's a big difference between when Messidor is going to go and when
certainly there's also a big
Solomon
difference
Byrd wins.
in how good the player is. Like Akeem Messidor, one of the best defensive ends of college football this year. Solomon Byrd was a 7th round pick. It's like,
but it's more of a premium. So like if you're taking Byrd in round 3,
yes, but
or day 3, excuse me.
I would assume the evaluation is primarily one of technique, and because the physical nature is there. Like, it's as physical as he's going to be. Like, there's not anything left to really develop from that standpoint. So it's probably a conversation when you're thinking about a guy who's 25. How much better can his technique be? Is he for sure just a finished product? Is that exactly the player we're getting, or is there a little bit of room for improvement? He's a fantastic pass rusher. He did a great job at Miami, and he's a player that understand that he's 25. I mean, how many guys are 3 years into their career and they're on a new team? Like, okay, it happens. You obviously don't want that in the first round, but if you get 7 years out of it.
I didn't know you were this big of a fan. I mean, it's hard not to watch them and not be a little bit enthused by him.
I am more open to doing anything at 28 than probably anything in recent memory from a Texan standpoint. I very much felt 2023 had to be a quarterback early on. I don't think I'm in the minority on that one, but I very much felt like last year, if you stay in that first round, you have to get an offensive lineman. They were not off the board. They move out. That was a good job. We knew they needed to get wide receivers. Like, you could spin a wheel in almost any position at 28, and I'm going to find a guy that I'd be willing to take with that 28th overall pick. D lineman, linebacker, maybe one of these safeties, probably not, but maybe. But yeah, you could, and certainly offensive linemen, guards and tackles. So I'm more open at 28 to doing something different than probably any of these other recent first-round selections they have. Obviously right now, who knows what Caserio is going to ultimately do.
So after we talked to Caserio in the local portion yesterday, he went up to the national portion and kind of feel like an asshole when you talk to someone for 15 minutes and then you go up to the national portion. But I wanted to ask more generic draft stuff up there. So I asked him about Drink, the checkers chess moves that I always speak of. And this is Nick Caserio talking about how he looks at the Drink checkers chess moves.
How important is it to look not just the next season, but 2 years down the line where the contract situation is kind of balancing long-term-ish moves and short-term?
It's twofold, Landry. You're trying to take, like you said, we got a number of net of free agents this year. All right, probably going to lose some of them. Maybe we'll get some of them back. I'd say Tommy Togiai is an example of a player where, we felt like, again, that he was going to be competitive, try to get ahead of that a little bit. So, again, some of it is what's the willingness or openness on the other side. There's two parties that are involved here in negotiation. So we'll have dialogue at any point, any time. I think people know how we operate. I'm kind of to the point, get to the bottom line, and if it's going to work, it's going to work. If it's not, no problem. We understand that, and then we can kind of plan accordingly. So I'm not going to rule anything. We're never going to rule anything out, but some years it's going to look a little bit different relative to others.
And I think wide receiver last year, you put yourself in a position to where you don't need it as much, although it wouldn't be the worst year to need it. But I think if you look at how they attacked wide receiver last year, even when they had Christian Kirk and they had Nico Collins, there's two reasons why. I think number one, I think they know Tank Dell's basically done. And he damn sure wasn't playing last year. Like we knew he damn sure wasn't playing last year, but I think you don't draft Jalen Knoll without having like some sort of grasp of it. And also they knew that they would need wide receivers after last year because Kirk was on a 1-year deal and you didn't know if Tank Dell was going to be able to play or not. So they go into this draft and it's almost like
they don't spend on they don't spend on projects. Like they go and get guys that can help right away in a defined role and maybe even have upside to start right away. Like they've done that for 2 straight drafts.
Yeah, and now this is the first time that this will be, well, I don't want to speak too soon, but as it sits right now, this will be the first round pick that D'Amico and Caserio have made since Will Anderson, which is crazy because you had 6 first rounders in 3 years. This will be if they pick, and I don't want to speak too soon on that because I could see them easily trading back because they are day 2 assassins, but this will be the first time. And I don't know, like I almost look at it like I'm going to Vegas and I'm going to like the front of the casino and they're saying, all right, sir, here's a free 500 comp in the casino. Like it just feels that I think that might have something to do with your previous notion that you're so flexible and open-minded when it comes to what they can do with the first round pick, because on day 2, they've absolutely kicked ass the last couple of years.
It feels a lot closer to $500 comp when you talk about the defensive players. Whereas when you think about the offensive players at like 28 or 38, it's almost like, okay, if you're betting on this guy, you're kind of paying your rent with a scratch off. And sometimes that works. Sometimes you go up there, you scratch it off, you scan it in the little machine.
That never works.
You get $500.
I don't know what kind of scratch offs you're getting,
okay.
But let me know.
Okay, so it just feels because they've had success. It just feels a lot safer to have that young defensive player and maybe the proven commodity from a free agent on the offensive side to help shore things up is a safer route.
All right, another guy that hasn't visited with him as of yet, Daryl Jackson out of Florida State. He's an interesting one.
Big guy.
I don't know how they haven't really had like massively just like really tall D linemen. Like they don't typically have guys that like 6'6" and taller. Like Sheldon Rankins, if you look at the body type of Sheldon Rankins, is kind of short and wide,
stout.
Well, yeah, stout.
I wouldn't even call him wide. I'd just say stout.
Yeah, but like Daryl Jackson, it's not really a type, and they haven't
got those long arms.
He does have the long arms, but I don't like Daryl Jackson. I'm not really as high on Daryl Jackson when it comes to like the guys that we've spoken about earlier, like McDonald, even though the short arm crap. I'm bigger on that. I like Miller too. I think, but Miller on day 2.
There's 28, 38 guys, and then there's 59, 69 guys, and Daryl Jackson feels like a 59, 69 guy. And that's what the Texans had. Those are their first 4 selections, 28 and 38, 59 and 69. Obviously, Nick Caserio, how much he likes to move around, that could drastically change. But Jackson feels far more like a 59, 69 guy. And can I tell you my weird thing about him?
What's that?
He was on my flight coming into Indianapolis.
Okay.
Early morning flight out of Chicago. And he's waiting at baggage claim. And I'm like, he's wearing, some of his like get combine workout gear.
Like how Shamar Stewart was on my flight and he wore his combine uniform last year.
Yeah, he's pretty proud of that.
On the plane.
Yeah, because he went out here and made himself a bunch of money.
Literally after he ran.
Yeah. And I'm looking at Jackson's heel is hanging off the back of his slides. And I'm like,
it's a style thing, brother.
What?
It's a style thing.
His slides didn't fit.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Your foot's supposed to hang off the back of your slides.
See, I'm with you. Like I'm not. But I heard Tank talking about this.
Now they were fancy.
Well, yeah,
they were more expensive than any shoes I have.
Tank said you got to walk on the back of the slides to be cool.
So it's a young guy thing.
Yeah.
So I'm an old guy now because I'm not hip with the times.
Yeah, that's what I was a little bit surprised when Tank said that, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Plus when you're in the range of probably, I'm assuming he's a 14 up. Like these shoe stores,
14 he's probably got 15, 16.
These shoe stores are very discriminatory because sometimes I have to rock a 13 and I'm a 14. So sometimes you just got to settle with the smaller size on like the Crocs or the slides. So
discriminatory
for sure.
Well, here's the thing. That's how you know they're real, because you could probably get a fake pair of those in the right size. So that's how you know they're probably real and pretty expensive.
Yeah, those are probably a little bit.
Yeah, take care of your feet, Daryl Jackson.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. God, he had a crowd around him. By the way, is he married?
Tell you what, if he ever gets divorced, half the questions that people ask him are going to go away.
I was talking. We saw his agent yesterday, and I asked him. I was like, "Hey, is Jacob married?"
He
started playing it up, but yeah, he's like, yeah, because it's the Jacob Rodriguez being married is the new Jordan Shipley and Colt McCoy were roommates.
Yes.
Like, how many times did you hear that was literally every completion was Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley are roommates, and now it's Jacob Rodriguez is married to a helicopter pilot.
Yeah, his wife's in the military. She pilots helicopters, and he'd make a tackle, boom, crowd shot. She's in the crowd with the family. He forces a fumble, boom, crap. He could force the fumble. The other guy could pick it up and take it for a big return, and then it's boom, crowd shot to Mrs. Rodriguez. And again, he got asked like 20 questions about her. It's like, ask the guy about some football.
By the way, good job by Murphy McGuire for getting Jacob Rodriguez.
Yeah, it's a great job.
He already has one of my favorite players.
Puna Ford.
That was what I was like. Team Puna. Always a Puna Ford guy right here.
Puna Ford.
He's done a good job of stacking some money because I feel like Puna Ford is one of those guys. Like I think it's a good example.
He's underrated for sure.
It's just weird because like at what point do the measurables just go away? Because it feels like with Puna Ford, like I get it. I get it when we're going in the combine. Then he produces for one team. Then he produces for another. Then he produces for another. Then he's like it feels like at what point does this stuff kind of go away?
Yeah.
Like some of these discussions that we have, especially with like D linemen and
that's where you try to find a guy that's an outlier. Physically an outlier, and Ford was one of them. But Rodriguez didn't. A lot of people didn't ask him about teams he talked to or visited with, and I know he mentioned the Cowboys specifically, but he said at some point I've talked to every team. So I would assume that at some point he's had at least some sort of conversation with the Houston Texans. No, definitive, formal, informal, or anything like that. But I would think that the swarmy nature is a check mark on the scouting report for Jacob Rodriguez.
Yeah, but I don't know that he fits into what they do. I especially with the Petrie factor.
He's also in like a he might be in sort of a no man's land, especially if you use a defensive pick in one of those first couple of selections. You may be thinking offense more with 59-69. So he might be in like a no man's land for them where he's kind of supposed to go, but they don't get a crack at it.
I do feel like Jacob Rodriguez might be like this year's Scatabo though.
Oh, everybody's gonna be sitting here.
I've already said this. It just feels like everybody's trying to find a reason why not. And like he, just like Scatabo, they get to the college football playoff. He's one of like the stars, and then it's like you're almost like trying to find. Last year, it felt like why not? I know you weren't one of those guys. I'm not trying to lump you in, but it does feel like Jacob Rodriguez is like one of those guys. Because a lot of times when people say, "Just watch the tape, can he play or not?" There's obviously more to it, but it does feel very Scatabo-y. Where everybody's trying to find a reason why this guy you should not pick him, and then all of a sudden we're going to turn on the TV and this guy, just like Scatabo was before he got hurt, he's going to be doing exactly what he was doing at Texas Tech for somebody. Now in this instance it might just not be a scheme thing, but it does feel that way.
I'm very intrigued to see how the draft process plays out for him, because watching him and the success he had, that feels pretty easy to say, okay, good prospect. And then there's going to be some team that's like, well, he kind of ran slow in a straight line. Caserio would hate that conversation. He hates that straight line running conversation.
Florida defensive tackle Caleb Banks.
Surprised they did not talk to Caleb Banks. They had not had a conversation with Caleb Banks yet. Banks played 3 games last year, had a foot injury, and he said, I'm coming to the combine. We're going to get the medicals checked out. I'm going to show all these guys I'm still one of the best defensive tackles in football. This is a guy that draft prognosticators a year ago, if he played a full season, was projecting to be a top 10 guy. And then the foot injury kept him in just 3 games. So he's kind of working off of that 2024 success and that 2024, trending upwards because he didn't have anything really to kind of put together for 2025. Was excellent at the Senior Bowl, showcasing a lot that he's healthy now. And sure, there's probably some like medical concern a little bit, like, oh, he had a drastic foot injury, and could that pop back up? But he's a 28-38 guy for me if he gets that far, because some team might just fall in love with him. But no meeting yet with the Texans for Caleb Banks.
And you always feel like maybe they're going to be a little bit, the Texans, like, secretive. They keep everything close to the vest. So, like, I know Lee Hunter was real quiet about what his conversation was like, Miller, all that. So sometimes the guys who say the least or that they do the most, they kind of overthink those types of things.
Yeah, it would not surprise me if Nick Caserio, as he's like walking the kid out, he's like, hey, don't tell anybody that we talked to you. Don't tell anybody about what we talked about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That would just the unnecessary secretiveness of the Houston Texans.
All right. Speaking of DTs, Alabama defensive tackle Tim Keenan. Now, he has a history, much like one of the linebackers we'll get to in a second, with Will Anderson and Henry To'oTo'o. Here's what he had to say about that history.
Will Anderson, that's the hardest I ever seen anybody practice. Like, how he looks in the game, it looks just like that at practice. And then To'oTo'o, like, I remember him coming in the summer, and it was probably like, the second or third week, he already adjusting guys and knowing the defense like that. So to see guys handle it professionally and the way that they did is definitely inspiration for me to go on and do the things that I needed to do.
Okay, it's high praise.
Yeah, I mean, I have not found a Bama player yet that's going to say some bad stuff about Will Anderson. Obviously, last year Tyler Booker had the, I'm the leader I am because Will Anderson taught me how to be a leader, which was kind of the high praise there. And then To'oTo'o picking it up, To'oTo'o picking up the defense in less than 2 weeks and adjusting everybody. That feels very much, about what Henry To'oTo'o was in college. Keenan's an intriguing player. He's probably not the biggest or strongest guy, but stick around at Alabama and start a bunch for them over the past few seasons without having something to your game. So mid-round guy, depth guy, intriguing conversation. I did not expect this. He went to bat for Kalen DeBoer. Talk about, you look at his first couple seasons versus Coach Saban's couple seasons at Alabama.
Ooh.
Like, we won a lot of games. I'm not saying anything bad about Coach Saban. Coach Saban's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time, but people too hard on Coach DeBoer. He's awesome. He's fantastic. He was great with us. And I was like, okay, I didn't expect that. He was taking he didn't intend it as a shot to Nick Saban, but he's kind of defending DeBoer. And I don't know if many of the Bama faithful agree with him. They seem to be a little disappointed with the post-Saban era.
Yeah, I would not say that mentioning those two in the same sentence is ideal. Another guy who played with both of them, Alabama linebacker Deontay Lawson, same height and weight as Henry To'oTo'o. I've seen some comps of Henry To'oTo'o. Just listen to this. It feels like he probably knows Will Anderson and Henry To'oTo'o pretty decently.
Remember about Henry To'oTo'o and Will Anderson, and have you met with the Texans?
Yeah, man. Henry To'oTo'o is my guy for sure. He really, kind of paved the way for me. Told me it was important to take care of my body, being a more vocal leader, things like that. And then, man, Will A was different. He was my locker mate at Bama when he was there. So just watching him move every day and watching him work. I mean, it was just an inspiration to see, for real.
Have you met with the Texans?
I have. It was a good conversation. Not really too crazy, but yeah.
Shh, don't say anything, Deontay Lawson. Shh. You got to be secretive when you talk to the Texans. Shh.
Yeah, I don't know when that could be a day 3 thing even.
Well,
awesome.
It's business, but if you feel like he can be the next Henry To'oTo'o,
yeah,
if because Henry's far more successful than a lot of 5th round picks, but if you see it, if you feel that way, and day 3 selection, you need linebacker depth because you don't have a lot of investment long term there. So why not?
Yep, why not? All right, so the linebackers also, Harold Perkins from Cyprus, nothing really there. A lot of injuries. he also has the Hurricane Katrina, pretty good story, the history, how he ended up at Cyprus. It feels like he's like pass rushing is more of his thing, and I don't know how they would handle a linebacker that's more of a pass rusher. It just feels
But he's
like,
not a big guy though.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it is he's like a smaller guy that is a linebacker who really takes pride in pass rushing, but I don't know how that fits in what D'Amico does.
Perkins a few years ago was an excellent pass rusher for LSU, and then there was, I guess he had some conversations with coaches at LSU about, hey, at the next level, like you're going to be more of a regular linebacker. They moved him there. He had the injuries. He had a tough time adjusting to the position move, and I don't know. It doesn't feel like a worthwhile investment for me. I don't see it. And I think there's better ways to go about it, but he had a conversation with him, so there's at least a passing interest in Harold Perkins.
Yeah. Was there anyone else that really stuck out? Anthony Hill is a guy that people like out of Texas. God, he looks like he's like 12. And he's just turned 21. I like him a lot. I think he's a day 2 guy. I don't know. I would imagine like them meeting with a Texas player here would almost be a waste of their time.
Yeah. Because you're gonna go to the pro day.
Yeah, Casario treats that pro day like a damn music festival.
That one and A&M.
Yeah, he's really into that. So they'll be there at that. I don't know how he will fit into what they do. But going back to the defensive tackles, Dom Orange was a guy who I asked him about his teammates at Iowa State, and he said that him and Jalen Knoll, they actually grew up together in Kansas City. They talk a lot. He also, by the way, one of the bigger personalities here today, he said, Houston Cyclones, let's go. Let's make it happen. So, well, I think I didn't want to correct him because there were a lot of people. I think it's already happened, brother.
Like Xavier Hutchinson, Jaden Higgins, Knoll.
I think it's already happened. But it's funny because it's just a coincidence. But this is a guy who, with all the names that were out there, this is a guy who could be one of the better fits for what the Texans do. And there would just be some irony given the fact that the Texans have drafted so many Iowa State guys. I would say this is like a day 1. This is a day 2, end of day 2.
Late day 2 guy.
Late day 2 type of guy.
He's the perfect type of player that if they were moving around and ended up with a late 3rd round pick, because currently they have a selection at the top of the 3rd round, he's the perfect player that if they moved around a little bit and ended up with a late 3rd round pick, that it makes total sense. There's not a lot of pass rush upside there, but big human being that is going to find himself helping you out in the run game, stuffing things, eating space, and elite nickname, Big Citrus, elite nickname.
Are there any other linebackers that catch your attention?
I like Cincinnati linebacker Jake Golday. I don't know if he's in sort of that no man's land where he's probably not worth 28. He's probably gone by 38. So that may take some moving around, but talking to a couple of draft people, he got comped to reigning defensive rookie of the year, Carson Schlesinger. And it's like, if you added a defensive rookie of the year candidate at linebacker, like that'd be pretty good for the Houston Texans. So Jake Golday from Cincinnati at linebacker. And then I was intrigued to talk to Bryce Betcher, who is a baseball player, got drafted by the Astros, and continued to play football. His football career was quarterback to safety to linebacker, and was one of the better linebackers in the Big Ten this past year. Was like ready to fight people at the Senior Bowl, which was awesome. He's scrappy, not the biggest guy. Obviously has a coverage background because of the safety stuff. And I just think, safety to linebacker, Dan Lanning, Oregon. Like the Texans spent a draft pick on Jamal Hill a couple years ago. Get a guy like Betcher, throw him there on the depth chart and let him be a special teams demon. And if he develops into a player that can help you out as a depth piece on defense, it's a really nice late pick. And the Astros seem to have wasted a draft pick on him because he's playing football. So he's
super understanding, knowing that I'm from Oregon. Wanted to finish out my football career there, and understand I have a cool opportunity in football. So yeah, they've been awesome with it.
So there you go. So that's basically him on that decision. We're going to conclude this with a punter, and I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't mind this type of vibe. Now, Kamari Lassiter gets love from DBs, he gets love from wide receivers, he gets love from everyone. What about punters? Because this was a bold, solid move by you. You went and talked to the Georgia punter, who we see all the time.
Yeah,
we watch Georgia. The thing about Georgia, like as a marquee college football team, is like a lot of times if it's an elite college team, it's like, well, you never see their punter. You see this guy going out there with like the pants like below, and like they're always playing field position. And Kirby will always try to.
I think about David Culley would love them. If we got to punt, we'll punt.
If we got to go 3 and out, we're good.
Yeah, we'll punt.
If we got to go 3 and out, we're good.
So Brett Thorson is the punter from Georgia, and he's 26 years old. He's an Australian. He learned to punt from a Australian punting academy, and then ultimately ended up in college football. And he won the Ray Guy Award, which is the nation's top punter this past year. And I asked him, hey, did you talk to the Texans? Like, well, the specialists do it different. He's like, we get basically a round table. We talk to everybody. So yeah, I did talk to them. Obviously Frank Ross and Nick Caserio crossed paths with him at the Senior Bowl. They watched him warm up and punt for basically a whole period. And then I was like, okay, well, you talk to the Texans, all the specialists talk to the Texans. I was like, he played with Kamari. Surely the punter's got some Kamari story. And he just lit up when I mentioned his former Bulldog teammate.
Yeah, Kamari's a dog. I'll sell him out here. He puts whipped cream on ice cream, and that just baffles me. And every time I see him, I question it, but he thinks it's the only way to have ice cream. And I definitely question that. I don't know why you put cream on top of ice cream. But, yeah, so give him crap about that. That's terrible, terrible choice.
There you go.
I just asked for a memory, and it was like disgusted by whipped cream on ice cream.
Dude, an Aussie with a mullet? Dude, please.
A 26-year-old Aussie with a mullet who has strong food takes. He sounds like the dream SNL guest.
Well, he also has like pressure punts. I don't know how you measure like pressure punts, but you have Kirby Smart cussing at you. You're always like playing field position and defense and all that. And he's been there for a while. Tommy Townsend's fine, but I mean, if they want to get the Aussie with the mullet to punt, sign me up.
So yeah, it's funny too, because a lot of the specialists, the people have conversations like, well, have you been told you're going to get drafted? Are you going to be a preferred free agent that somebody's going to want to sign if you don't go drafted? And he's like, I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to try to do the Aussie accent. It would be terrible.
Thank you.
He's like, I'm not worried about that. If I get drafted, that's great. If not, we'll have an opportunity to showcase what I can do. And I thought this was an intriguing element too. Obviously, these Aussie punters, a lot of them know each other because they come through this development program in Australia. But he's like, I'm working out a lot more with American punters now to really round out my game, figure out how they do things, learn a little bit more about guys who've been doing it for their whole life or a lot longer than I have. Because he's been punting, 6-8 years now, maybe. So I thought seems like a pretty intriguing, 7th round prospect. The Texans got 2 7th rounders. He's there. Go ahead, sign him up.
Yeah, that seems like something that Nick Caserio would actually like to dive into a lot when it comes to the punter. But yeah, I just see him out there with he's got like the tights on under the.
Yeah, he does not look like he's a little bit like we've seen Townsend play the past couple of years. Like Townsend's a skinny, tall guy. Thorson's a little bit heavier, and he dresses in a unique way, and he's Australian.
Cody, fat shaming punters here on SNL Live from the
makes me like him more.
Combine.
Makes me like him more. You can't trust skinny people.
Well, do you trust people who put whipped cream on ice cream?
I didn't find that to be such a.
I think it's great.
I didn't find that to be such a
crazy thing.
Yeah, We'll have to ask Kamari about this next time we see him. Like, oh, yeah, your old teammate told us you put whipped cream on ice cream.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I do. Maybe there's I don't know. Maybe Kamari's using a weird type of whipped cream or something. I don't know. I thought that. I mean, I put whipped cream on my ice cream.
Yeah, it seems like
I didn't want to start an international war with Thorson.
Never would have guessed. All right, so those are our takeaways from the DLLB. I say the need is significant. I think it's one of the bigger chess moves. You don't want your defense to fall off, and Nick Caserio seems to like the offense. So I think it's a big need. I think there's some intriguing names. I think McDonald's the one that we like the most. I like Miller too, just like you in the second or third pick that you have. And CJ Allen's just a guy that I think D'Amico Ryans is going to like. It's just a matter of, if he's there at 38.
Yeah, can you justify the selection and making the pick and adding to the equation? Look, the biggest thing for me with an early defensive guy, you can't just draft some guy that's going to help you only in the future. He's got to have a day one defensive role that helps this team. And then if he turns into a more important player because guys leave, that's fantastic. But 2026, having a role in 2026, if you're going to draft one of those defensive guys early, paramount to it. And with the guys we've talked about for the most part, hey, go throw Caden McDonald in there on first and second down. Go put Allen in there on, maybe some more coverage type situations, or be able to play three linebackers because you maybe didn't trust three linebackers last year. Day one role with the potential to replace guys that are currently starters. Make it happen at 28 or 38 if it's there.
Meanwhile, in Houston, there was a press conference today. Did you did you check out what went down with the
Toro District?
The Toro District. What went down there with that?
They did publish some renderings of the Toro District and what it's going to look like, or what they hope that it's going to look like, and the football element of it looks pretty cool. It looks like they're going to have a much, much larger indoor practice facility than what they have currently. Right now, it's not a full football field with the full surroundings. So if you have to go in there, it sort of limits some of the things that they typically would do when they're outside. But the rendering has 3 big outside fields, a huge, training facility, it looks like, a huge indoor facility, and then just tons of stuff that looks like, office space and retail and hotels and stuff like that. So it looked cool. The renderings are.
What was the scene? I haven't even looked at this. Like, were they?
Well, the renderings are a lot further ahead than the land.
What were they like? Did they?
It was all flat.
So they just sat in empty land and did the presser, or what?
It looked to me like there was just hey, we're going to talk about it, why this is important, how excited we are. This is where it's going to be, and here's what it digitally is going to look like. Here's what it looks like now. Nothing. And here's what it's going to look like in 3 years.
And they had a bulldozer in the back too.
Oh, okay.
And then they had like confetti.
Okay. Confetti announcing it. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I got to imagine they're pretty excited about it. So we didn't make the trip over there. We went and found ourselves here some prospects to talk to.
Well, I think that was what D'Amico didn't want to go. He was like, what the hell are we doing? I thought we already announced this. Originally, D'Amico didn't want to go to the combine, and I think that's why he joined the competition committee.
Hold on now.
I think he joined the competition committee. He's like, Cal, Hannah, y'all are going to have 16 trillion press conferences about this Toro District. I really don't want to go. I was just going to skip the combine, but you know what? Now I'm gonna apply for the competition committee, because I know I can get out of this one of 600 Toro District things, which I do support the thing. But yeah, that was what happened with D'Amico.
Mr. Goodell, D'Amico Ryans is on line 1 for you. It says it's important. It's about the competition committee. Do you want to take that call? Okay, you do? Okay, well, I'll patch him through.
Tomorrow's a big day, though, because we get to go to the side of the ball that some people are very frustrated.
First little taste of the offensive side of the ball.
Tight end Thursday.
Whoo! Ooh, man, a lot of defensive backs in the morning.
Corners, we from a local perspective, not really that big of a deal, but tight end Thursday.
Tight end Thursday. Maybe, a little talk with some of these safeties, but tight end Thursday. I'm going to talk to as many of these tight ends as possible. And I'll say it now, I'm not going to feel the same way about this tight end class that I did a year ago. I really liked the tight end class a year ago. From our guy, Thomas Fedoni, people remember us talking about him at the Combine a year ago, to the guys that went in the top of the second round, and Elijah Arroyo and Terrence Ferguson, Harold Fannin, which this was a year ago, was when somebody told me, I don't know, he runs funny. And then he went out there and was one of the best rookie tight ends in football this year. And you and I were both big Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren guys too. So,
who wasn't though?
But I'm very excited to hear what Kenyon Sadiq has to say. Max Clare from Ohio State, Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. And then beyond those guys, pick your poison. You got big athletes, you got projects, you've got blockers. Like, it's going to be a really fun conversation with all those tight ends.
All right, we appreciate everyone for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to like, be sure to ride along. Locker room tonight. We'll get more into this stuff here. Might even do a mock draft. Don't threaten me with a good time. Might do one of those. And then tomorrow we'll be talking about the tight ends, which is a very important position for this organization. You cannot keep doing what you're doing at the tight end position. It's an absolute disgrace.
Got to transform that room.
Have to. 2 down. You've got to figure that out. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.